matchless in grace and mercy. There is nowhere we can hide from your love. You are steadfast, never failing, you are faithful. All creation is in awe of who you are. You're the healer of the sick and the broken. You are comfort for every heart that mourns. Our King and our Savior forever. For eternity we will sing of all you've done. For eternity we will sing of all you've done. We sing, God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. Your heart, it moves with compassion. There is life, there is healing in your love. You're the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. For eternity we will sing of all you've done. We sing, God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us. No Where there was death, you brought life, Lord. Where there was fear, you brought courage. When I was afraid, you were with me, and you lifted me up. You lifted me up. Where there was death, you brought life, Lord. Where there was fear, you brought courage. When I was afraid, you were with me. You lifted me up. Lifted me between us. God with us, God for us. Nothing can come against, no one can stand between us.
Let the King of my heart be the mountain where I run, the fountain I drink from. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the shadow where I hide, the ransom for my life. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good. You're good. You are good. You're good. You are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my. Sing it again, come on. Let the King of my heart be the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. 'Cause you are good. You're good. Oh, you are good. You're good. Oh, you are
You're never gonna let me down. 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 You're never gonna let me down.
Welcome today. My name is April Goodrich. I'm the Weekend Teams Director here at Resonance Church. If you're new with us and you'd like to connect with us, you can do so online at resonance.church/connect. You can do that on your phone right now or when you get home. If you'd like to give to what God is doing here at Resonance, you can do so online at resonance.church/give through our app, or you can do so today in the silver box at our Info Center tent up on top of the hill. And finally, I am excited to announce a new ministry strategy for Res Kids called Res Kids Box. I have an example of one here. I don't know if you can see it in the back, but so what this box is, inside each box, you'll find the entire month's curriculum, ages 2 through grade 6, customized to fit your family's needs. It'll have the parent discussions, it'll have the activities plus the supplies needed for the activities. It'll have devotions, challenge cards, and more. And this is all free of charge. You know, we're all kind of finding ways to connect when we've been struggling to do so online, or we might be screen-weary families like I know mine is. And so this is just a way that your child can go to the Res Kids tent, or they can connect with the Res Kids volunteer, chat with maybe some of their peers. And we're going to start this on October 4th. So how that looks, the first 2 Sundays of every month, we'll have a Res Kids tent set up by the Info Center tent. And at the end of the service, you can go grab a Res Kids box. And, the first month or two will kind of be an estimated guess on the numbers. We always strive to keep up with demand. So I suggest for the first month, go on that first Sunday, grab your box after service, if we still have supplies after that first service, we'll have a tent up the second Sunday, and then we'll adjust our numbers accordingly. But we're really excited about this. It's all free of charge. You can do the curriculum at home throughout the month at your convenience. And so if you have any questions about this, I'll be at the info tent at the end of service today, and just come up and chat with me. I'd love to talk to you. October 4th, grab your Res Kids box. And with that, I'm going to pray, and then we'll welcome Pastor Jamie up. Father God, we just thank you for this beautiful day and the cool weather. We just thank you for the breeze and to be able to come together and worship as one family in the park. It's just amazing, and we thank you for that. I just pray over the servants today. I pray blessings over Jamie's message, Lord. We love you, and it's in your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Already starting off on a good note. Forgot my microphone. So, well, good morning, everybody. How you guys doing today? Yeah, it's fall is officially here, and we can get the hoodies on, the flannels, and it is just the best time of the year. Any amens from that? Yes, we can sit out here and we can enjoy God, we can enjoy each other and not sweat and be miserable the entire time. So thank God for this beautiful day. I'm just honored to get to speak to you guys again. And I got to be honest, this has been a week for me. This has been a very challenging week. And I feel like God gave me this sermon about I would say probably about lunch on Friday. So no pressure. And I finished writing everything about 2:40 this morning. So yeah, that's my life. And anyways, we are going to be today in the book of Judges. And as you look in the book of Judges, I've noticed a theme throughout as I'm reading throughout the first few chapters of Judges, because over and over and over again, the Israelites were forgetting God. They were worshiping these false idols, and every time they forget God, they forget what he had done in their past, they forget God's goodness, and God sends an enemy basically to get their attention and to wipe them out. They take their crops, their donkeys, their cows. They're just destroying everything in sight. And they always have to get to this place in their life where after everything else is gone and after the enemy has literally taken them captive or has destroyed everything they have, then they realize, oh, we should turn to God. And so what they do is they cry out to God, and each time that they cry out to God, God sends them a deliverer. And it's funny. You guys need to read your Bible if you haven't read it before. It's pretty awesome. There is this lady that is like one of the fourth judges named Deborah. She is like a force to be reckoned with. She is a judge, but she is also a prophetess. And she is also, it says like that, but she's also a songwriter. She's a prophetess, she's a songwriter, and she is the wife of some guy I can't pronounce. But we see this lady named Deborah, and she leads an entire army and destroys an enemy, this lady. Because, you know, a lot of people like to count ladies out, but don't count yourself out, ladies. You got a purpose. So as I continue with that, I want to say that Deborah hung out with some pretty cool people. There was this lady named Jael, and she invites the enemy into her tent, and while he's like laying there sleeping, she takes a spike and drives it through his skull. Wow. Yeah, you guys need to read your Bible. It's way better than anything on Netflix, I can promise you that. So, where we're beginning today is so all this has happened, and today we're beginning in chapter 6 of Judges. Chapter 6, verse 11. It says, "The angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Oprah," not Oprah Winfrey, "that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite," weird names, "where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites." So they had fought several different armies, several different people had come against them. All of these different enemies had tried to destroy their crops, and now we are to the Midianites. They are camel soldiers. And as we talked about a few weeks ago, there were so many of them that they couldn't count them. They were like the locusts. Their camels and the soldiers was so vast and so huge that they considered them like locusts because there was so many of them. So here we are. We got these camel soldiers. You got camels like roaming through the desert, like charging after you. Picture that in your mind. And they take all their crops, they take their donkeys, they take their sheep, they take their cattle. And the Israelites end up making their homes in the cliffs, in the rocks, in their hiding out from the enemy at this point in time. Because there was like chariots in the land too, and they knew the chariots couldn't go up in the hill land, so they would hide up there. So God does, as he always does, he sends someone to help them. So God sends an angel of the Lord to this man, and here is where we find our unlikely hero for the day, threshing wheat in a winepress. Basically, when you are threshing wheat, you are basically beating the wheat until the chaff blows away in the wind, and all the excess stuff blows away in the wind, and the grain from where it was heavier would literally fall to the ground. And so he is trying to do this process that you need wind to help you down inside of a pit. And so it's kind of counterproductive. He's not really probably making much progress down in this pit. But he knew that if he stepped outside, the enemy was going to take everything. They was going to kill him. They was going to take his stuff. And so here he is. He is hiding in a winepress. Which brings us to Judges. Let me read you that again. Judges 6:11. "So the angel of the Lord came and sat down under the oak in Oprah, however you want to pronounce that, that belonged to Joash the Abiezrite, where his son Gideon was threshing wheat in a winepress to keep it from the Midianites. When the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon, he said, 'The Lord is with you, mighty warrior.' 'Pardon me, my Lord?' Gideon replied. 'But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about when they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' Man, this kind of seems like our modern day world that we live in. If God's so good, why is all this stuff happening to us? If God's so good, why are we going through a quarantine right now? If God's so good, why do I have to wear a mask inside of Kroger? But pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied, but if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened to us? Where are all of his wonders that our ancestors told us about? When they said, did not the Lord bring us up out of Egypt? But now the Lord has abandoned us and given us into the hand of Midian. Anytime things go wrong, we always want to blame God for it. You see, the Lord turned to him and said, go in the strength that you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you? Pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied. But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least of my family. The Lord answered, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. So Gideon wants to make sure, he does a few different things just to make sure that this is God talking to him, like we always do. Like, okay, God, is this you? And then like God keeps proving himself over and over, like, yeah, this is me. And then Gideon begins recruiting his army, his 32,000 men. He gets 32,000 men, and Gideon's ready. He's ready to go after the enemy. And as he's going after the enemy, he gets out there, and God's like, wait a minute. You got too many. You got too many people. So God's like, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take these men, and all those ones that are fearful and they're trembling, I want you to just send those men home. And so what you don't realize is, yeah, 32,000 seems like a lot of people, but you see the Midianites had 135,000 soldiers that they are going up against. So the odds are, it's basically 4 against 1. So if I take on 4 men, I'm probably not going to win. Probably not going to win against 1. But the odds were not in their favor, and then there's 22,000 more men that get sent home, and now they are left with 10,000 men. So now it is basically like 1 against 13. This is impossible odds. And so they go down by the brook, and God says, all right, you still got too many. And I'm sure Gideon's like, come on, God, are you kidding me? But he didn't. He didn't complain. But he went there, and God said, what I want you to do is I want you to notice the ones that bend over, and they cup up the water like that, and they're lapping it like dogs. Basically, they're looking around, making sure that the enemy is not coming their way. But the ones that bend down and they drink the water, like not looking up, basically you need to get rid of those people and send them home. So now Gideon has sent home another 9,700 men home. And he's left with 300 men. Now what you need to realize is, like, don't get this picture of like 300 and Gerard Butler with spray on abs. These were like ordinary men like me with dad bods going out there trying to fight the enemy. They weren't experienced soldiers, that they didn't have any experience in this at all, but yet God is using 300 men. So now it went from 1 against 4 to 1 against 13. And now we are at a place where it is 1 against 450 men. That's basically like me saying to everybody here, come on, let's fight. I will beat and take down everybody here right now. That's impossible. There is no way that I'm going to win that kind of battle at all. I don't have a chance. And so they go in there, and they don't just go to battle. They go in there. They don't have swords. They don't have guns and all this stuff. Of course, obviously back then they didn't have guns. But they're going against this army with pitchers and torches and trumpets. If going against all those men wasn't enough, they're trying to fight them with some mugs, a candle, and a trumpet. And they take down, as the angel of the Lord said in verse 16, the angel of the Lord said, I will be with you, and you will strike down all the Midianites, leaving none alive. And he did that. The enemy turns on themselves. So my question today is, how did this puny farmer that was the least in his family, how did he go from feeling like a nobody, feeling like I don't have a good family background? How did he go from this insecure farmer that is terrified and living in fear, hiding in a pit, to a great and mighty warrior that takes down an army of 135,000 men? Well, I believe that on noon, God showed me the answer to that on Friday. I will never, ever understand the process of sermon writing. It is a weird process in my life. It's not just like, oh, every single week it just comes to you and like, here's what you do. No. It's a battle for me every single time I preach. I promise you. Like, I wrestle with God, like, God, what do you want? And then I walk upstairs Friday at lunchtime, and I'm looking out my back window, and God's like, here you go. And I'm like, okay. And I write down 4 points. Crazy random stuff. But here's the 4 things that I believe that God showed me of how he won this impossible battle. The first was insecurity. You see, I think that every single one of us here deals, probably, if we would be honest, we all deal with some level of insecurity. If you're a business owner, you probably look at people that have better vehicles with you, better equipment than you. Everybody else seems to have it better off than you do, and you're constantly doing this comparison things to your competitors, and you're realizing, like, I'm not really as good as them, and so you're insecure about yourself. Maybe you look at your body and you think, I'm too puny, I'm too fat, I'm too just blah. You look at your teeth, and they're not as white as this person's. They don't look as pretty or as straight as that person's, and you begin to compare yourself to other people. You look at other parents, and they literally make you sick. Like, okay, they get home from school, and dinner is ready for them on the table. They always do devotionals every single night. Their evenings are always just perfect. Everything goes their way. When you see them, their kids are always dressed perfectly. They don't have a blemish on them. It looks like they just came out of a magazine. And you're looking at them like, I'm lucky to just get to church with my kids. Because my kids have chocolate stains around their mouth. They've got stains on their shirt. They've got bedhead. You're lucky to just get dinner on the table by 9 o'clock if you're lucky. And then by the time that happens, it's like, I just get to bed. We don't have time for a devotional tonight. And life is just awful. How many people can say amen to that? With a dad of 4 kids, I totally relate to this. And you're like, how do people do this? I don't know. I'm drowning just trying to get my kids in the bed, and I'm satisfied sometimes. Honestly, I don't even remember the last time they had a shower. Like these are real scenarios, and you feel real insecure as a parent because it just seems like everyone else has it all together. But maybe you grew up and you didn't have a good mom. You didn't have a mom that taught you how to be a good mother. Maybe you grew up and your dad was never ever present in your home, so you feel like that's just going to carry down with you because you feel like I can't be a good dad either. And you have all these insecurities. But this is what Gideon was feeling whenever the angel came to him. Because he says in verse 15, he says, pardon me, my Lord, but Gideon replied, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. Listen, you don't understand. My family is insignificant. We aren't warriors. We're farmers. And on top of that, I'm the least in my family. You see, Gideon had overplayed this in his mind over and over again. He had begun to let insecurity set in his life, and he was realizing that he wasn't even the middle. He was the least of his own family. That was the weakest. And he began to believe these lies about himself. Because he probably looked at his cousin and said, oh, well, he's got 6-pack abs and I don't. Or he probably looked at his other cousin that had a degree, and his brother had a degree, he went to college, and he's just working at Speedway. That's not true, but I'm trying to give you a visual of what he was feeling in his life. He believed these things about himself. And for me personally, I know what it's like to have insecurities. You probably look at me and think like, oh, Jamie just has it all together. Like, man, like he always preaches and it's right towards me. Maybe you don't think that at all, but in my mind, maybe you think that. Like, man, he just always has everything together. And you're laughing because you're like, no, he don't. But I remember back when I was in middle school in the 8th grade, I loved basketball. Basketball was like my thing. I was good at basketball. I was really good at it. And in 8th grade, I'll just back up a little bit. I was so good at basketball that I had a karaoke machine out in my garage. I would stay out there shooting until like 2 and 3 in the morning. I had a karaoke machine in my garage with a cassette tape that switched from A to B. I had jock jams on cassette. But what really set me apart from everybody else was that I had a Shaquille O'Neal rap tape, guys. I was outstanding as one of his songs. You guys need to listen. Like, Shaq can like throw some beats, man. And so I thought, man, I'm so good at basketball. And then I go there after the 8th grade tryouts, and I look down the list over and over again. There must be some kind of mistake because I'm not on that list. I didn't make the team. And so there began this comparison game of like, I'm not good enough. And I began to compare myself to these other guys thinking I'm not good enough to ever play basketball again. So I lost my passion for basketball. And if I'm honest, I think a lot of those insecurities have trickled into my adult life. They've trickled into who I am because, a lot of times I don't feel like I'm a good preacher. I've heard people say like, "Oh, you're a good preacher." I don't feel that sometimes. I look at other preachers and it just seems like it's just so easy for them to get a message, but it's like I struggle every single week to get a message. You aren't as good as this guy. You're not as organized as them. You're not as structured as them. You don't have your life together. Your sermons are just surface level. There's something wrong with you. You aren't smart enough to be a preacher. You don't have a degree in any of this stuff. Other pastors can plan out their sermons and they'll have it ready by Tuesday, but you're lucky enough to just have it for Sunday. I have my fair share of insecurities. And no matter how many people that I have seen come to Christ, no matter how many people that have told me that I've done a good job, or like, man, that really helped me today and that's what I needed, there are those times where I still feel like something's broken in me. And from time to time, I still feel that there's something broken in me. That why do I struggle so much to get a sermon? Why do I fight so much to get a sermon each and every time I have to preach? I don't know why that is. It's just me. It's a battle I've got to deal with. But from time to time, I still feel that. I feel like I'm broken and there's just something messed up in me. But there are some of you here today that have this God can't use me because of this mentality. God can't use me because I've got an eating disorder. God can't use me because I was sexually molested when I was younger. God can't use people like that. God can't use people that are dealing with what I am dealing with. Those things that I am hiding from everybody else. God can't use me because of the dark thoughts that I have in my head. It's just twisted thoughts. God can't use me because I'm on my 3rd marriage. God can't use people like me. And we have that mentality, but the reality is, if God can use a prostitute named Rahab, I think that He can use you and me as well. Because the thing about God is sovereign enough to do His job just fine. And the reality is if He chose you to do it, there is nothing that you can do to change that. You see, what I love about that story of Rahab is that God didn't change her before He used her. If you look at Rahab at the end of the Bible, it mentions Rahab, and it tells all these amazing things about Rahab and how she delivered and kept the spies safe on the roof, and how they conquered Jericho. And then it goes into talking about Solomon and David. He's like, but I don't have time to talk about them. You don't have time to talk about David, but you have time to talk about a prostitute? Like, that just shows you the love and the grace of God, and that whatever you're going through, no matter who you are, no matter where you have been, God can still use you. You see, a lot of us have grown up believing that God will love us if and when we change. But God's love is not the reward for our change. But God's love is the resource by which we are changed. You see, I realize that I have insecurities in my life. I realize that. But I'm not going to let that stop me from trusting God and from fulfilling my calling and going after my purpose. I've got things I'm weak in. But that's okay. I'm going to keep pushing through. I know that I'm not the best spoken person. I know that I'm not the most well put together person. But I promise you this, I will follow after God wherever He leads, even if I look like a fool doing it. You see, Paul had insecurities as well. Wrote most of the New Testament, and this guy by the name of Paul had insecurities. He had a thorn in his flesh, and 3 times he asked God to take this thing away. In 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10, he says this, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That's why, for Christ's sake, I delight in my weaknesses, and insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then He is made strong." What I have realized is that God can use my insecurities. He can use my weaknesses. Because it's all Him anyways. It's all Him. Anytime you feel that God speaks to you from me or whatever, it's not me, it's from God. I promise you that. Because I'm not wise enough to be able to get into your mind and into your head to know your circumstances. But Gideon had insecurities, but he did not allow that to hinder him from God's purpose. So we have to push through our insecurities. The second I word that I want to bring to you today, I like to do letters for us to easily remember things, was idols. Israel was so messed up during this time that they had forgotten God. But the reason that they had forgotten God is that no one was teaching them, the next generation, how to love God. So they had, the next generation had forgotten about God. That's why I'm so passionate about being a student pastor, is because if we don't teach this next generation how to love the Lord, of the good things that God has done, then it's going to end up stopping with me. And I don't want that for my kids. I don't want that for my students. I want to see God continue to use them. I want to see God use them now in this generation so that they can see the good things now, so that they can carry those things on. But they had made idols to worship. And Baal was a big idol that they worshiped during that time. Baal was basically a fertility god. Basically, people were worshiping this god where you could have sex any way you want and with whomever you want. And the Israelites thought that seemed like a pretty good idea, because there was no consequences for your actions when you did that. And so they were living in this messed up culture. But you see, the thing is, they didn't get rid of the enemy in their land. Like God told them to drive out the enemy, and they left a lot of them in the land. And when you leave the enemy in the land, you start to get influenced by the enemy. I can go a whole sermon on that one. But Judges 6:25 through 31 says this. This is Gideon. He had just been called by the angel. He had asked God to show him certain things, like make sure if is the wool wet? Okay, all right, God, the wool was wet when I told you to make the wool wet at night. Okay, so I put the wool down here and it's dry. Okay, all right, God, I'll do it. So getting to this point, and the same night the Lord said to him, "Take the second bull from your father's herd, the one 7 years old. Tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole." Asherah was like a goddess during that time, very similar to Baal beside of it. "Then build a proper kind of altar to the Lord on top of this height. Using the wood of the Asherah pole that you cut down, offer the second bull as a burnt offering." So Gideon took 10 of his servants and did as the Lord told him. But because he was afraid of his family and the townspeople, he did it at night rather than in the daytime. I love these little details. But in the morning, when the people of the town got up, there was Baal's altar demolished, with the Asherah pole beside of it cut down, and the second bull sacrificed on the newly built altar. They asked each other, who did this? When they carefully investigated, they were told, Gideon, son of Joash, did it. The people of the town demanded that Joash bring out their son. He must die because he has broken down Baal's altar and cut down the Asherah pole beside of it. But Joash replied to the hostile crowd around him, are you going to plead with Baal's cause? Are you trying to save him? Whoever fights for him shall be put to death by morning. If Baal really is a god, he can defend himself when someone breaks down his altar. You see, an idol is anything that takes the place of God. Anything in your life that takes the place of God is an idol that you have in your life. You see, Tim Keller says in his book, Counterfeit Gods, he says, an idol is anything more important to you than God. Anything that absorbs your heart and your imagination more than God. And anything that you seek to give you, and anything that you seek to give you what only God can give. It can even be a gift that you have in your life. Like maybe you're really good at singing. Well, that singing ability and that gift can become an idol in your life if you will let it. Maybe that's your idol. A lot of us are praying, God, fix this. Lord, take care of this situation. Lord, you got to come through in this situation. And the reality is, but the problem is he's not on the throne of your heart. God's not on the throne, but this thing that you have made an idol is sitting on the throne of your heart. And so God is not even listening to you because you have been worshiping this thing, this idol in your life. And God, the reason maybe you're not getting that prayer answered is because you have idols in your life and in your heart. It can be something so simple. But you see, God can't do anything about it because you see, God gives us freedom of choice. And God's not just going to kick an idol off of your throne. It has to be you to step up and to evict that idol from your life. But it can be your car. Maybe you have this beautiful car and there's nothing wrong with having a beautiful car, but you spend all this time and all this energy polishing it, waxing it, tuning it, making sure that things are just right. And then like you have this beautiful car and you spend all this time and all this energy on this car. You neglect time away from your family because it's like, oh, I'm going to go out into the garage and work on the car. And then you cover the car back up and you never even hardly even drive the car. And if you do drive the car, it's like for 5 minutes and you spend all this time and all this energy making this idol in your life. Maybe it's relationships. If you're a teen here, let me give you a word of advice. You don't have to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend. Just because everyone else has one, you do not have to have one because I promise you, you are not ready for that kind of commitment. I'm moving on. I have to have a boyfriend. They have a boyfriend. I need a boyfriend. They have a girlfriend. Like I got to have a girlfriend. And there's this constant like I always need to be in relationship with someone else. I have to get married. You see, when your relationships are on the throne of your heart, God can't bless that. Because a lot of us have made idols out of relationships in our life. Maybe it's not that, but maybe it's fear. Some of you can't live your life to the fullest because you're constantly living your life in fear. You're in fear for your children. You're just constantly living in fear. And so you live in fear. You're basically hiding out in a wine press. Everything that you do. But I am telling you that there are evil forces behind some of this stuff. And you think, well, that's not true. There's evil spirits behind a lot of this stuff. And you're thinking, okay, whatever. Because some of you have a spirit of fear on your heart, and that is the throne of your life. You live in constant fear. But I'll tell you this, that fear is not a God thing. And the reason I know this, this is a healthy fear. God gave me this fear. No. God does not give us a spirit of fear. But He gives us one of power, of love, and a sound mind. That's what God gives you. So that fear that you are constantly like fear, you're worried all the time, you're anxious all the time, that's not of God. And what is that? Why is that fear and worry on the throne of your heart? Maybe it's sports. Maybe you haven't been to church in such a long time, but it was kind of a brisk morning and you decide to cancel your tea time. But it's like, this is golf season for me. I'm playing golf all the time. Or it's soccer season, so we just play soccer. My kids will play soccer. My kids will be athletic. They will be the next LeBron James. They will be the greatest athlete. I want to make sure of it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with sports because I love sports, but the reality is if they are taking the place of God, maybe you need to reevaluate your life. Because maybe those sports are taking over and it's like, okay, we can't go to the game during this season because our game is at this time. Maybe you need to not go that day and set a standard for your family and say, you know what? Sports will not be over God. We will go to church, and if the game starts at 1, 2 o'clock, we'll be there. But as of right now, we will put God first in our home. Maybe it's not sports, but maybe your idol is this thing right here. This little tiny thing that you hold in the palm of your hand. Let's think about it. We don't bow down to wooden idols. We don't bow down to those things because that seems like it's kind of silly, but we will bow down to this thing. Think of it. As soon as you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you're doing? Where's my phone at? You grab your phone. You look at your phone. Not only that, you're swiping through Facebook, you're swiping through Instagram, and you're comparing yourself to other people all the time, and this thing becomes an idol in your life. You need this thing to survive. Like if you don't have your phone, you are panicking. Maybe for you, maybe it's time to go back to an old flip phone during this season of your life and just to be able to text. You might have to press the number 1 3 times to get to the C, but maybe this is a season of your life where you need to go back to that because you've turned this thing into an idol. The Bible says to put to death, therefore, whatever belongs to your earthly nature, sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desires, and greed, which are idolatry. Anything that is taking the throne of your heart, it has to go. It has to go. Some of you are comfortable with worry and fear being on the throne of your heart. And some of us here have so many idols, they're just sitting on each other's lap and they're just stacked on top of each other. Because a lot of the things I mentioned, like, oh yeah, I idol that, like I do have that. What is your adoration towards? What are you so passionate about that takes the place of God? It has to go. Some of you are comfortable with lust and perversion being on the throne of your heart. Every single day you're going to work and you're making sure that you're fixed up a little bit extra because you know that maybe that secretary is going to be there that day. You know that woman's coming to the office today, and so you'll make sure that you look a little bit nicer, and you always go out of your way for this woman because at home your wife's been basically neglecting you for a while, and she's not been showing you the attention that you desire, so therefore you go seeking attention somewhere else. And you're turning that thing in your life into an idol. In Ezekiel 14:16, it says this. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Repent and turn away from your idols and stop all your detestable sins. So the first thing we need to do is repent. We need to come to God and say, God, I am sorry. I have put this ahead of you in my life. I didn't realize it, but man, I've put this in front of you. We need to repent. And then we need to, after that, turn away from our idols. Turn away from it. If you have to throw that computer away that you keep going back to, that pornography, throw the computer away. Get rid of it. Get it out of your home. Cancel the Netflix subscription. Do what you can. Because it's not worth you dying and going to hell over. And stop all of your detestable sins. You see, Gideon had to go and he had to knock down the idols that his dad had put up. Some of you need to knock down some idols that you've allowed to come into your own home. You need to take your family back and say, no. For me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And we're going to take back our house. You knock down the idols in your house. And the third I is this. So we have insecurities. we have idols, and then we have the third word, which is inordinate. Now, when you're trying to find an I word, and there's no I words that fit it, you land on a word like inordinate, so that I can keep this process going. So stay with me. Judges 7, 1 through 7, it says, early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that's Gideon, and all of his men camped at the spring of Harod. The camp of Midian was north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into your hands, or Israel will boast against me. My own strength has saved me. Is that what they're going to say? Now, announce to the army, anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead. So 22,000 men left, while 10,000 remain. But the Lord said to Gideon, there are still too many men. Take them down to the water, and I will thin them out for you there. If I say, this one shall go with you, he shall go. But if I say, this one shall not go with you, he shall not go. So Gideon took the men down to the water, and there the Lord told him, separate those who lap the water with their tongues as dogs from those who kneel down to drink. 300 of them drank from cupped hands, lapping like dogs. All the rest of them got down on their knees to drink. The Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, I will save you and give Midianite into your hands. Let all the others go home. So let's go back to my word, inordinate. If you don't know what that word means, like I said, I needed an I word, so we landed on it. But it means excessive or unnecessary. God told Gideon, you've got too many soldiers. You've got too many people to fight this battle with. They were unnecessary. And my point is this, a lot of us have too many voices in our life. We have too many people that we are allowing close to us. We got too many people that we are calling friends. A lot of us have too many friends. Proverbs 18:24 says this. It says, the man of too many friends, chosen indiscriminately, will be broken into pieces and come to ruin. But there is a true loving friend who is reliable and sticks closer than a brother. Friends are a great thing. Every single one of us need friends. And I know probably you're thinking, like, I don't need friends. Like, I don't need anybody in my life. I can do life on my own. I'm independent. My mom raised me to be an independent woman, and I can do life on my own. But the reality is you can't. You need friends in your life. You need people in your life. The beautiful thing about friendships is that it's different than family. Because the thing about friendships is you get to choose who you want to be friends with. You might not like your sister, but you got to kind of deal with her because she's your sister. She's always going to be your family, but the reality is you get to choose your friends. And I love that God set it up that way because God chose us. God chose us before the foundations of the world. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 11, it says, two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help, but someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Everyone needs friends around them. However, not everyone is your friend. Let me repeat that. Everyone needs friends around them. However, not everyone around you is your friend. Because what we've done in our society is we have watered down that word. We've watered down the word friend, and it no longer carries the weight that it used to carry, especially in a digital age. We live in this culture now, right, where we have Facebook, right? And the average person has over 400 Facebook friends. You can have up to 5,000 friends. So it's real easy to say, oh yeah, they're my friend. They're my friend. Oh yeah, she's my friend. She goes to my school. She's my friend. Oh yeah, I work with them. They're my friend. It's real easy to say that, but can you honestly say that 400 people know you on an intimate level? No. No way. Maybe you know me because I share all my junk up here from the stage. But You can't know someone on an intimate level having that many people in your life. We need friends in our life, but not just any friends. I'm talking about real, true friends. I'm talking about the people in your life that actually truly care about you. They understand who you are. They understand that you have purpose. You see, Jesus had a crowd. He had, he not only had a crowd, but he had followers. He had people that followed him, which was the 12. But he had 3 close friends throughout Scripture, and he names them by name several times. That Jesus would take these 3 with him places that he didn't take other people. There's one point where Jesus comes and he heals this sick girl. And he says, you know what, I only want Peter, James, and John to come in here with me. Why? Because your friends know you on an intimate level. They know who you are. Matthew 16 says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and others Jeremiah, one of the prophets. But what about you, he asked. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. You see, your friends know who you are. They know what you struggle with. They are the people that see purpose on the inside of you that other people don't see, and they are willing to fight for that purpose inside of you. I want to share with you 3 different things about friends that are characteristics of friends just real quick. You see, a friend fights alongside of you. A friend fights alongside of you. How many of you have ever heard the story of David and Goliath? Even if you've never been to church in your life, you've probably heard the story of David and Goliath. But what a lot of you probably don't know is that David wasn't the only person in his circle that could handle a giant. Let me show you what I'm talking about. In 2 Samuel 23, starting with verse 8, it says, these are the names of David's mighty warriors. Now listen what these guys did. These were David's friends. These were his mighty warriors. Josheb, Bashabeth, Takamonite, was chief of the 3. He raised his spear against 800 men whom he killed in one encounter. That's a bad dude. Next to him was Eleazar, son of Dodai, the Ahuite. As one of the 3 mighty warriors, he was with David when they taunted the Philistines, gathered at Pasdamim for battle. Then the Israelites retreated, but not Eleazar. Eleazar stood his ground and struck down the Philistines till his hands grew tired and froze to the sword. Dang. The Lord brought about a great victory that day. Next to him was Shammah, son of Agi, the Hararite. When the Philistines banded together at a place where there was a field full of lentils, Israel's troops fled from them. But Shammah took his stand in the middle of the field. He defended it and struck down the Philistines down, and the Lord brought about a great victory. Where are you going with that, Jamie? You need people in your circles that can take down the giants that you're facing. You need to surround yourself with people that can fight alongside of you. You need to surround yourself with people that will go to battle for you. You need those people in your life. You need those people like David had, like Jesus had. Because the reality is you can't be the only warrior in your group fighting the battles. If you're the only warrior in your group, you're going to become real tired real quick of fighting other people's battles all the time. Surround yourself with a group of warriors. The next thing that you need to know about a friend, and this might be unpopular, but a friend will fight against you. The reality is a lot of you have cut people out of your life that tells you you might not be right. And because they didn't agree with you, because they didn't understand your ways, you have cut those people out of your life because you realize, like, I don't need those people in my life because they're against me. That goes against the way that I'm feeling at the time. But a true friend will have authority to say, hey, what you said wasn't right, and that hurt my feelings. And you hurt a lot of other people in the process of that. Proverbs 27:6 says, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. Listen, when a true friend tells you something, I promise you, it might hurt, but I can promise you that a lot of times what they're telling you is good things that you need to hear because they care about you. A true friend will say, hey, I don't think you should be dating that guy because they're bad news for you. You can do better than that. A true friend will say, hey, you don't have any business going to that party. A true friend will let you know you don't look good in that outfit. But a lot of y'all would rather have kisses from the enemy instead of the wounds of a friend. You would rather have the people in your life that tell you exactly what you want to hear. Sometimes a friend will fight against you. And I'll even say this, you need friends in your life that will have the boldness to say, maybe that wasn't God. Maybe those thoughts you've been feeling, maybe that wasn't God. You need those friends in your life. And the last thing about a friend fights for you. A friend fights for you. I think a lot of you have been alive long enough now to know that sometimes life gets hard. Anybody would just agree with that? Sometimes life gets hard. Sometimes life isn't easy. Sometimes you want to walk away. Sometimes there are days where you just wonder, how much longer can I go on? How much longer can I endure this? Some of you have experienced loss. Some of you have experienced brokenness in your life, and you feel like there's just no way that you can go on. And Job in the Bible was a great example of this. I want to show you, Job's friends did a lot of things wrong, but I want to show you real quick what Job's friends did. In Job 2:11 through 13, it says this. It says, now when Job's 3 friends heard all the evil that had come upon him. So Job, to give you a little reference, Job had sickness that come upon him. He had lost all of his children, had just crazily died. He had lost all of his crops. He had lost all of his livestock. He lost everything he had, and the only thing that he's stuck with is a nagging wife just to make things better. And so here he is in this moment, and here we find Job. His 3 friends heard of all this evil that had come upon him, and they came each from his own place. Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They made an appointment together to come to show him sympathy and comfort him. And when they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads towards heaven. And I love this. I love this. I love what Job's friends did. This is such a beautiful picture of what a friend looks like. And they sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Sometimes you just need a person just to sit with you. They don't have to say anything, but you just need a friend present in your life. Job's friends did a lot of things wrong, but I think that this is one thing that I can say they got this thing right. They knew he was weak and broken, and so they were fighting for him. So I still have to say this to give you a category of what it looks like, a true friend looks like. Some of you got too many influences and too many voices in your life. You need those people around you that can fight when you can't fight. You need friends that can pray when you can't pray. And you need friends that would just sit with you in silence. God literally took all of these unnecessary people out of Gideon's life to fight the battle with. And I'm not saying you need to leave here and go call somebody and say, hey, I'm sorry, we cannot be friends anymore after this sermon. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just wanting us to take more value to that word friend and what that means. And the last thing about Gideon was identity. It was identity. He had his insecurities that he overcame. He knocked down the idols in his life. He took out and dismissed the inordinate people in his life. all so that he could live into his true identity. All so that he could live into his true identity. Gideon went on to be that mighty warrior that the Lord said that he was going to be. He went out, he took all of those 335,000 men and their camels down with just a pitchfork, not a pitchfork, that would be too malicious, pitchers. With pitchers, with a torch and a trumpet. And the thing is, as God fought the battle for them, he just needed Gideon to be obedient to do what he was calling him to do. He knew his identity. Yeah, he struggled with insecurities, but he lived into the identity that he was a mighty warrior. And I'm convinced that so many of us believe the lie that we aren't good enough. I think one of the main things that the enemy attacks is identity. Think about it. Our culture and our world is so messed up now that we've got teenagers that are growing up not even knowing if they're a boy or a girl. I'm just being honest with you. The enemy, if he can get us to not know who we are, then he has us. And that's what he wants to do. But listen, you know what I've realized in my life? Is when I realize who I am, it doesn't matter what I'm not. When I realize whose I am, it doesn't matter what I'm not. All these insecurities that I have, all of these weaknesses that I have, they can just fall beside the wayside because I know whose I am. And when my identity is in God, I can take on things that I can never ever take on my own because my identity and my hope and my trust is in the Lord. I want you to know this morning, that you are chosen, that you are loved, that you are called, and that you are equipped. That God had a purpose for you, and that God knew you before the foundations of the world. He knew you before you were in your mother's womb. He loves you so much, and he has so much purpose in your life, and he cares about you so much that he knows, and he has the hairs on your head numbered. That means if I pull out this hair of my head, God knows that's 1,672, because he cares that much about the details of my life. But you have to know that you have a purpose and that you weren't made to just sit in hiding the rest of your life in a wine press like Gideon. No, you were made and you were called to be a mighty warrior for the kingdom. That's who you are. That is your identity, because the Bible says that we are called to go into all the world and to preach and teach the gospel. That's not just me. That's all of y'all. We have a purpose and we have a mission to go after. But we got to put our identity in the one, in God. He will fulfill those purposes if we do that. You see, a lot of people are dying and going to hell because in your mind you believe, I'm only just a farmer. I'm only just a teacher. I'm only just a builder. I'm a salesman. I pour concrete for a living. I put electric wires in a box. God can't do anything with that. There are a lot of people that are dying, lost, and going to hell because you believe the lie that that's all you are. You see, when God is calling all of you guys to say, I'm a mighty warrior, to believe that truth in your mind. And some of you think that I'm just a stay-at-home parent. That's all I am. But God's saying, no. I designed you and I created you to be a mom or to be a dad that raises up kingdom warriors. And that is your calling and that's your purpose. It's not just sitting at home and trying to bypass the time on Facebook. No. God designed you for a purpose to raise up children that love the Lord with all their heart and all their soul and all their mind and all their strength. Maybe some of you think I'm just a teacher. I'm just an elementary teacher, Jamie. Like I can't do anything. Maybe God's calling you to be a leader of leaders and to begin leading other teachers in that school, to show others what it looks like in that context, to show others the love of God, and to show these children how much they are loved by the Father. And you're meant to teach those leaders how to lead. But don't ever allow someone that has said something negative about you, don't you dare let that define you. Don't you dare do that. Because you are not dumb. You have not gone too far. You are not a throwaway person. You're not. You're meant with a purpose. God calls us in Scripture, we are His masterpiece. He created us to do good works. He prepared things in advance for you to do. Don't allow what someone said about you to define you. Some of you have been living and you've been hiding for years because of what someone said about you when you were 15 years old, and you believed that lie and that truth, and now you're just sitting in a wine press just beating the wheat, and you were just trying to be productive, and it's not going anywhere because you were made for more than that. But because of that shame, because of that insecurity, it now has control over your life, and you're stuck in a pit, not fulfilling your purpose and your calling. But don't you dare let someone define you by what they said about you. Insecurities, Gideon overcame. Idols, Gideon knocked them down. He made an altar to God. Inordinate, he sent the people home because he had too many people in his life. And he lived into his identity. So what is that thing that you need to handle this morning? What's that thing in your life? What are those insecurities? What are those idols in your life that you've built up, and what are those things you've put up? Who are the voices in your head? Who are those people that are negatively influencing your life that maybe you need to cut out so that you can live into your identity? What is it for you today? Maybe it's all those things. But I want to ask our prayer team to come this morning. And the band's going to get ready to play, but listen. Don't you dare spend the rest of your life just thinking that you have no purpose, that you have no place. Because Gideon was the weakest in his tribe. And you know what it says in that scripture? After Gideon makes these excuses about how he's not good enough to do this, you know what the angel of the Lord tells him? He says, all right, go in the strength that you have. Yeah. God isn't trying to make you into this superhuman person that has it all together, that knows the Bible in and out, all this stuff. No. God's just saying, go in the strength that you have. I created you this way for a purpose. Go in what I've given you. Go in that calling that I've given you. Use what you have. And so this morning, I want you to just all stand with us. This morning, a lot of you guys need to bring your insecurities to the Father, because they are controlling your life and you are living your life in a pit. That's what it looks like. You need to bring those idols, those things that you have put ahead of the Father, those things that you have adored, and you need to bring them and you need to cut them down today. Those things you've allowed in your homes, you need to maybe grab your wife's hand and say, you know what? We've allowed this thing to creep into our home. We've made an idol of this. We need to go and we need to repent of this, and we need to turn from this. Maybe you need to say, I need wisdom because I have so many voices in my head and so many influences in my life, and I need God to help me to get rid of these people in my life. And maybe you're just here today and you need God to show you who you are in Him. You don't know your purpose. You don't know your place. You feel like you've never ever understood it. Today is the day. Just come and just ask God, show me who I am. Because I don't want to go through the rest of my life hiding in a wine press. I want to be who you've called me to be. So as the band plays, would you just come? Well, just real quick, I just want to bow our heads and listen. You will never ever know who you are until you have your identity and your hope and your trust in Jesus Christ. Because Jesus died for each and every person here today. He died for your sins on a rugged cross. He took what you and I deserved, and He took the punishment for our sins. And listen, I just want to real quick, man, if you're here with every head bowed and every eye closed today, listen, if you want to know who you are in Jesus, He can show you. He can show you. If you want to know your purpose and your identity, God can show you that. But for you, you've never ever made a decision to follow Jesus, so if you never ever do that, you'll never ever know who you are. But if you're here today and say, man, I've never prayed to ask Jesus into my heart, and I want to make that decision today. I'm tired of living my life in a wine press. I'm tired of living my life in hiding and fear and worry and shame from all the brokenness that I've done in my life. I'm tired of living as this person. If you would just be real honest and say, I've never ever prayed to ask Jesus into my heart, but I want to do that today. With nobody looking around, would you just raise your hand and say, I want to ask Jesus into my heart today? Stick your hand up real high. No one's looking around. Anybody at all? Say, I want to give my life and my heart to Jesus this morning. Anybody at all? Listen, maybe you're here, maybe you just didn't feel comfortable raising your hand, or maybe you did raise your hand, but I don't see you. I see one hand raised, actually. Anybody else? You want to receive Jesus into your heart this morning? Anybody else? Well, listen, if you want to pray that prayer this morning, we're all going to pray this together. Say, Dear Jesus, I am a sinner. Please forgive me of everything that I've ever done wrong. I give my life to you. I believe that you died on the cross for my sins. I believe that you rose from the grave. And I believe that you're coming back one day. So right now I invite your Holy Spirit to come live inside of me, to help me to make good decisions from this day forward. Jesus, help me to live the rest of my days for you. In Jesus' name, amen. I believe we had one raise their hand this morning, so we can just give God a hand clap of praise for that. God always goes after the one. I love that about God. Well, listen, I thank you guys so much for coming out, and we'll be back again next Sunday, same time, same place, and just continue to enjoy this beautiful fall weather. But you guys have an amazing and blessed day, and be safe.